Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, joined by part of our Thunder coverage team from his home in Edmond, Thunder beat writer John Rohde, and from the newsroom just below me here at 9000 North Broadway in Oklahoma City, columnist Jenni Carlson. Thunder Thursdays, of course, are brought to you by our good friends at Advent Heat, Air, and Plumbing, on call 24/7 for Thunder fans who tonight are focused on one thing: the San Antonio Spurs. Thunder plays the Spurs at 8:30 at Chesapeake Energy Arena in a game televised nationally by TNT with all kinds of ramifications. However, it won't be for a share of first place. John, the Spurs beat the Magic Wednesday night, giving them, again, a game-and-a-half lead on the Thunder with 7 to play for the Spurs, 8 to play for the Thunder. Let me ask you, does the winner of tonight's game here in Oklahoma City end up winning the Western Conference regular season?
Yeah, I think it is because Oklahoma City would have a 2-game lead basically, and the next tiebreaker, they'd be 2-2 head-to-head. Next tiebreaker is conference winning percentage, conference record, and the Thunder has a 2-game lead there. So yeah, I think it's kind of winner take all. But if the Thunder loses, then they got to start looking at Denver, which has 5 of its last 7 at home, and the Thunder go on a tour that's not very nice, over 63 and a half hours. They will have played San Antonio, Indiana, and the New York Knicks. Indiana 5-game winning streak, New York Knicks 9-game winning streak, San Antonio second best record in the league. Throw those all together, that's a winning percentage of around 700, 679, I think. So that's quite a haul. So it would really behoove the Thunder, so to speak, to win tonight.
John, you make an interesting point, too, is that there tend to be so much focus on tonight's game, but the road ahead's tough for the Thunder, including a New York Knicks team on Sunday with a red-hot Carmelo Anthony. I'm going to stay with you, John, just a second. You're writing for Sunday about the scoring title race. Right. 90 points in the last 2 games by Carmelo Anthony. What does that do to the complexion of this race?
Well, right now, Durant leads by 0.2 of a point. That's 14 points difference if they each have their average each night. If he outscores Durant by 14 by the end of the year, the title is his. So it's game on. Asked Durant about that today. He said he can have it. I already got my 3. I don't believe it. I think he wants 4. So I think it's great. Just adds to the theater on Sunday. Sunday could be really, really entertaining.
A couple entertaining games coming up at the Chesapeake Energy Arena. Joining us from his home in Oklahoma City is our other Thunder beat writer, Darnell Mayberry. Darnell, sort of skipping over the Spurs game and on to something else, an interesting post on ESPN.com today where David Thorpe, a guy who's trained a lot of NBA and college players and an analyst for ESPN, asked the question and sort of answers it. And is the Thunder too selfish to go back to the NBA Finals? I don't know if you've had a chance to review that post, but I was wondering what you thought about it.
I don't think they're too selfish. I think I did get a chance to take a look at it, and I thought he was a little overly critical. Does Kevin Durant, is he concerned about his scoring title and 50, 40, 90? Yeah, it's important to him. Like Rohde says, I think that's something that he wants. Russell Westbrook is a guy who admits he doesn't care about, just in terms of shooting percentages, but yeah, he wants to score points. So, Serge Ibaka wants to score and rebound and block shots. So all of these guys have different goals individually that they want to achieve. You see it all the time when when there's a rebound that comes down between 2 of them and they start fighting for it and then smiling at the other person when they took it from them. So, all kinds of things happen with this team. I think, it's the start of April. It's a long season. And at some point, I think those guys just got to find ways to get themselves up for games. I don't think it will affect them one way or another come playoff time. As David Thorpe did mention, that's sort of a cure, and once the playoffs start, none of that is really in the equation, and it's all about winning games.
Jenni, among the things that David Thorpe cited, that Serge Ibaka is not playing with any joy, or not playing with the same kind of joy that he didn't sort of recognize a teammate coming into the game for him and has become stat conscious. Darnell referenced it that Kevin Durant was focused on the scoring race and complaining to the scorekeeper or the scoreboard operator that he had been shorted 2 points during a game. That, of course, he said Derek Fisher's playing too many minutes, which if he's trying to get back on the good side of Thunder fans, that's probably a good place to be. There seems to be a lot of agreement about that. He also said that Russell Westbrook is still Russell Westbrook, aggravating in some places, marvelous in others. And he picked the Thunder to win the Western Conference again. Does any of that criticism resonate with you, and do you think any of it sort of has an impact at all for the Thunder going forward?
Well, I'm not sure it's going to have much impact for those guys. I mean, I think they know better what the situation is. If there is a problem with chemistry, they know it. They didn't need somebody to write something to say it. But I've not really seen evidence of that. I mean, I think, I think it was Darnell that said, or John that said we're in April. This is an 82-game season again. It's not a 66-game season like last year that happened rapid fire. This is a long season, long slog, and guys are bound to get on each other's nerves and do things that aren't maybe the greatest way to go about things. But I don't know about this whole question of are they playing with joy. I think that as this team went on, as it got further along in its maturation, we were going to see that change. I mean, before they were really playing free and easy because nobody sort of had great expectations. Now everybody's gunning for them. Every time they play, somebody wants to beat them. So I think that you'd have to have a little bit of a different take or opinion or feel with the games than they did before. I think it's only natural. So maybe you don't see the smiles and all that sort of stuff that you did before, but I think that was almost to be expected with a team that was growing at the rate that this team has.
John, the ode to joy question. I seem to remember after Game 1 of the NBA Finals, Barry Trammell wrote a column. It looked like LeBron James wasn't having any fun anymore. Within 4 games, he was having all kinds of fun. The San Antonio Spurs last year in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals heard their coach beg for some more, I want some more nasty. Does fun sort of go out the window as you get serious about a title chase?
Well, I think the common denominator in all that is who won the game. So if you win the game, you're having fun. It's pretty simple. It's no different than any other. Let me throw another wrinkle into this David Thorpe evaluation of the Thunder. David Thorpe is a shooting coach. You know for who? Kevin Martin. So maybe David Thorpe doesn't think Russell's given the ball enough to Kevin Martin, or Kevin's taken too many shots compared to Kevin Martin. I'm not saying that's how he feels or why he wrote what he did. I'm with Darnell. I thought he was way too critical of KD, who I believe has taken his 3rd fewest shots in his whole career, and he's still a threat for the scoring title. So I agreed with some of it. They wear their emotion on their sleeve. They're young. They're feisty. They might have been even a little bit bored this year. But I wouldn't think that the Thunder's in as bad a shape as David Thorpe said.
The other interesting point about that is certainly David Thorpe has watched the team on television the way all of us have, but he was writing those conclusions or those off of anecdotal things that he saw at a March 24th game when the Thunder played the Portland Trail Blazers. That's the only game he's been here in Oklahoma City, and he witnessed those things. Who knows what was going on during that game. Darnell, we know what's going on tonight at the Chesapeake Energy Arena. The Spurs are in town, game and a half up on the Thunder. And to sort of pick up on a conversation we had yesterday when we were playing in coverage, who's got the best bench and does it matter? So you're the firm idea that the Spurs bench is superior right now. Is that the difference between these two teams?
Yeah, it's not just the bench. I mean, you look at Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green, Thiago Splitter. Those are starters. Those are guys who complement Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. And I think the Spurs supporting cast overall is better than the Thunder supporting cast. When you lose James Harden, and you're talking about a guy who people are considering the 2nd best shooting guard in the league at this point, ahead of Dwayne Wade. Maybe he's top 3, maybe Dwayne Wade's still ahead of him, but James Harden is incredible talent, and when you lose that, you're losing a lot if you're the Thunder. So they still haven't found a real way to replace him. Kevin Martin has basically replicated his scoring, but we all know that he's nowhere near the playmaker that James Harden was. So as the bench continues to, and the supporting cast continues to try to invent itself, the Spurs are already there. You know, they've had their trials and tribulations. They've been through the fire. They're still going through it this year. They had 2 losses at the buzzer this week that Greg Popovich said he thinks his team's going to learn from. So I just give the edge to the Spurs in terms of supporting cast. I think those role players can help shape a potential Western Conference Finals rematch.
Jenni, a subject, though, that has been talked about is the introduction of Kevin Durant's playing time with the second unit of the Thunder, that he is out there a lot of times with Kevin Martin, with Nick Collison, and that's a way of sort of balancing things out. Do you think that is enough to sustain the Thunder in these post-James Harden times, and do you think that's going to be critical in the playoffs?
Well, it's obviously going to be critical, especially if the second unit, I mean, as Darnell said, you know, you're talking about a Spurs bunch that has a really good next 3 in the starting lineup, and then they bring off the bench some really good players. If you look at a team like the Clippers, you know, a potential playoff opponent that really is deep, you know, if you're gonna be going against really good second units, you got to have somebody out there that can offset the scoring a little bit, and it looks like Durant might be that option. So clearly that's going to be important. But, you know, I think Darnell brings up a great point. You know, I look at a guy like Danny Green, who's really, really come a long ways. Kawhi Leonard, you know, has really extended his range. I think he's a much better player. And I'm just not sure you see, I mean, we see times that Serge Ibaka plays really well, but, you know, is it consistent to the level? I'm just not sure they're there yet. So it's not just that second unit to me, but when you're talking about matching up against the Spurs, can you match up with those other guys that are starting? And I'm not sure right now that the Thunder's as well equipped to put up points and defend as well as some of those guys are for the Spurs.
You're watching Thunder Thursday on News OK Live. Our Thunder Thursdays, of course, are sponsored by our good friends at Advent Heat, Air, and Plumbing, on call 24/7 for Thunder fans. Guys, let's go to the News OK Live page and take a few questions. This one from Parker, who says, we've yet to see a dominating performance from Kevin Durant this year. Does that worry anyone else? John, do you concur with the idea that KD hasn't had a dominating performance and that could be an issue?
Well, I mean, he's leading the league in scoring, so he's dominated something. You know, I mean, I remember 52 down in Dallas. I thought that looked pretty good. But I see his point, and it kind of goes back to your bench question. The bench shrinks in the postseason. The timeouts are longer, more time to rest. We know that Westbrook and Durant don't need to sit down. So if you can just get 8.5 good players, you know, do it. But with Harden gone, as Darnell pointed out today, I know Kevin Martin's back, but with Harden gone and that playmaking aspect gone, ball will be in Durant's hands more frequently than it was last year. So you won't have to get him the ball because he'll already have it. So I think the best is yet to come, but I kind of disagree. Durant, they're winning by 9.5 points a game, Darnell. He doesn't have to be a hero too often.
The margin of victory stat that John rolled out there last week, talked about, it's been in other media outlets, Darnell. How much stock do you put in that as a measurement of the Thunder's title worthiness?
I don't put much stock into it. You know, I'm not a historian, obviously, and you know, you can look at the point differentials throughout the history of the league and see how some of the better ones have led to championships, but, you know, those teams didn't have to face LeBron James. LeBron is playing on an incredible level right now. He's playing out of his mind, and I don't see the Thunder being able to beat him. So if they can get there, you know, they got to get past a few tough teams, whether it's the Grizzlies, Clippers, or Spurs, before they can even think about Miami. So, you know, the point differential is great. To me, this year, it just means that they're beating up on a lot of bad teams.
Jenni, Darnell has broadened this from bench to supporting cast. Probably a good idea when you really look at the Thunder, even truthfully last year, because James Harden was bench only, defined by where he was starting the game, not where he was finishing. But let's take that supporting cast for a second and focus on Reggie Jackson, who is a popular topic of this segment. Tell me, is Reggie Jackson, does he give the Thunder a chance to sort of even things up with the Spurs in the supporting cast category?
Well, he's definitely trending that way. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You know, I can't remember where I read this. I think it might have been in a blog, or maybe it was Darnell's story today. But you know, the fact that this guy has got a chance to, if he was on some other teams, probably be a starter on a lot of teams, just with what he brings to the floor. You know, his ability to score, his ability to break down defenders. I think he's continuing to evolve. So he clearly, I mean, I think the Reggie Jackson we'll see in the playoffs will be an even improved version of what we see right now. I mean, I really think he's improving sort of as we go along in pretty regular time frame. I mean, game by game, week by week, definitely. So the only question is going to be is whether just the pressure of the playoffs is going to have any impact on him. We didn't see him last year in the playoffs, and so now this year we're going to have to figure out, he's going to have to figure out how he plays under that pressure, and we don't know the answer to that because he didn't play at all last year. This is his rookie playoffs, even though he's a second-year guy. So how does he play in the playoffs? John, Darnell, I mean, I don't know what you guys think. I think he'll be okay, but I think it's definitely a question that we don't have an answer to just yet.
John, does Scott Brooks trust Reggie Jackson enough to ultimately give us an answer to that question?
Well, he can't trust him. He has to trust him more than Eric Maynor. He ain't coming back from Portland. So Jenni's right. I don't know what Maynor played, maybe 2-3 minutes in the playoffs. Basically, the last 40 games last year, whenever they signed Fish, March 18th or whatever it was a funky year. You know, Reggie was in street clothes. So he's shown better things this year. Whether that transfers to the playoffs, don't know. I think the safest answer, cover your ears, Darnell, is more Fish in the playoffs. It could get really fishy out there. It really could. So I believe in Reggie Jackson, but you know, I'm not the one trying to beat Miami.
Darnell, the fish that saved Oklahoma City, is that the slogan for the Thunder in the postseason?
Not if it's Derek Fisher. You know, Barry Trammell has an excellent blog going up on newsok.com at 3:30 this afternoon. I think all Thunder fans should check it out. Maybe not the ones that are Derek Fisher supporters, but the ones who are questioning why Scott Brooks is playing Derek Fisher. You have to take a look at this blog. It breaks down in great detail, plus-minus numbers, small ball lineups, with and without Derek Fisher. It's just fascinating stuff that I think is a must-read for all Thunder fans who are trying to figure this out. And if you have a line to Scott Brooks, maybe you want to give it to him too, because it's just further data that shows that Derek Fisher doesn't really need to be out there. I think, you know, as I wrote today, Reggie Jackson has had the training wheels attached to him, and I'm not so sure that when the playoffs start, he's going to be able to rise to the occasion and perform like they need him to. If they would have been building his confidence all season, I think we could be talking about a different story right now here in early April. But, you know, when Derek Fisher came back and kind of squeezed Reggie out of some of the minutes that he's earned, I think that's sort of been a blow to his confidence and a little bit to his development.
Jenni, let's wind it up with bringing it back to tonight's game, Thunder Spurs, and asking who do you got, and to share with me maybe an X factor, somebody you think, somebody unexpected you think could come up large tonight.
Well, I'm going to go with the Thunder just because second night of back-to-back for the Spurs, and the Thunder's had a lengthy layoff. I think that bodes really well for, you know, them being fresh and able to run a little bit on the Spurs. As far as an X factor, you know, I think you got to really look towards some of the, you know, guys like Thabo Sefolosha, Nick Collison, some guys that might be extended a little bit to guard the three, because you start to talk about some of these supporting cast members for the Spurs, And they really like to shoot the three ball. I mean, Danny Green can shoot it. We know Matt Bonner can shoot it. Kawhi Leonard can shoot it. So there's going to be some guys that are going to have to get out there and guard that three. And so I think it might be on the defensive side that you're going to see the Thunder have to have that X factor happen tonight.
John, yesterday you made a great point about rebounding. There seems to be some obsession among Thunder fans and our staff. We've written about the problems giving up a lot of offensive rebounds. Your point was they're making people miss more, so there's more rebounds to be had. I don't know if you think tonight's game will ride on that, but pick a winner and pick somebody you think could come up big.
Well, you know, I like the Thunder more in this game than I like them in the next two games after that. They win tonight, that's great, but I don't know if they're going to win tomorrow night in Indiana. And I have no idea about Sunday at noon because New York's going to be coming in with an 11-game winning streak. They're at home tomorrow night against somebody. Doesn't matter right now. They'll come in. Carmelo won't pass. He'll shoot. And who knows what will happen Sunday. So the three games, believe it or not, I think tonight's the best night for the Thunder.
Darnell, who you got and who you picking to have a big game?
You know, I'll take the Thunder tonight. You know, I think they realize the importance of this game. And San Antonio's going to try everything they can. They've been resting guys all week to really have, with an eye on this game tonight, trying to be healthy and fully rested or as much as possible. But I got the Thunder. And in terms of an X factor, you know, I'm not so sure about a big game, but I like the X factor question. And I think, you know, I'm going to go sort of off the beaten path, and I'm going to say Kendrick Perkins. To me, he's a guy that can really defend Tim Duncan. If he's on his A game, he can defend Tim Duncan, slow him down. And I think if Kendrick Perkins has 10 points or more, the Thunder's going to win because that's an indication that they're moving the ball and getting everyone involved, and he's finishing plays. So I look at Kendrick Perkins to be an X factor tonight.
Thanks, guys. That's all for this edition of Thunder Thursdays on News OK Live, but you can stay with the best coverage team every day on News OK and every morning in the Oklahoman. Remember to look at News OK Live on newsok.com tonight after the game, where you can see Darnell and John's post-game analysis and the must-read of Darnell's Thunder Rumblings blog. Guys, thanks.